they've always got their rifle up and ready.
So when you are on the ground now, are you being shot at? Like, are you returning fire, or is no one
No,
paying attention to where you are?
no, the ground force, the Delta guys were engaged in a gunfight to the east of us. We're about 300 meters from that little area and two of the guys saw the missile shot. So the missile, or the weapon system that shot me down, was a highly technologically advanced system. It was Russian. It was an SA-16 surface to air missile, but it's a shoulder fired system that seeks heat. So they use it to shoot down jets and helicopters and things like that. It's designed specifically for aircraft. So it seeks that heat from the engine, and then when it gets close, it's got a proximity fuse. So that fuse will measure that distance to that heat source, and then it will explode. So it sends all these little fragments into that aircraft instead of, like an RPG or a rocket where it's just one projectile and it might hit and it might not. So that's why those systems are more effective against aircraft. It's like a shotgun blast. Boom. So, and it worked as advertised. So it had hit the engine, and the engine went out. But the guys on the ground were engaged. And so once I checked myself, I kind of undo my shoulder harness or my seatbelt, and I grabbed my rifle. I look over at my co-pilot and I said, "Hey, get your rifle and meet me over here," because on a armed gunship, you don't want to get in front of it in case a bullet goes off or a rocket goes off or whatever. So we always meet we use clock positions. So 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and we were both pretty jacked up. So I pointed, I said, "Meet me over here," instead of saying, "Meet me at 3 o'clock," like over here. Well, when he looked at me, he had blood all over his face. And I was like, "Oh no." And this fella, he was a junior. This is his first combat tour. He was brand new to the unit. And I'm like, "Welcome to B Company. Get your ass out now." So now I'm thinking, okay, did he get hit? Why is there blood all over his face? And then I thought the Little Bird, it has a bad reputation for the shoulder harness not locking in a crash sequence. And I know a couple guys that this has happened to. So they crashed, the shoulder harness didn't lock. So they hit the cyclic with their mouth. And knocked all their teeth out. There's a couple fellas I know that happened to. So that was the first. I was like, "Oh crap, maybe his shoulder harness didn't lock, and he hit his mouth or whatever the case." And I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, "Are you okay?" And he was still looking kind of straight ahead. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he kind of did one nod, and I said, "Okay." I said, "Get your ass out." I'm not kidding. So I crawl out, got my rifle, and my first priority now is security of the aircraft. So 360 degrees, little black helicopter just shot down. And I'm not kidding. I was thinking Black Hawk down, here we go. Daytime, black helicopter, bad things happen. So I attempt to stand up. I do stand up, and I took a step and I fell down. I go, So I stood back up, I took a step, and I fell. I did this 2 or 3 times. And the other AH, they had come back around to check us because the helicopter was fully engulfed in fire now. And he's like, "Yeah, he said, I came back to land because we hadn't seen you guys, and, we were trying to service targets for the ground force. And then we saw you crawl out. We're like, okay, they're good." And they they watched me. And later they were like, it was kind of funny, man. You look like a clown. You're up, he's down. He's up, he's down. He's up, he's down. What the heck's going on? Well, I thought my leg was broken. So about that third time I hit the ground, I just pulled my pant legs up and, checking both of my legs and check my body again. And I'm like, okay. Well, what had happened is in that I compressed that L spine and I got a stinger and it just put my leg to sleep for a very short time. And so that's what was going on there. And then I got up and I made it all the way around the aircraft just to make sure nobody was, any enemy were coming towards us. And I looked back and my co-pilot still hadn't gotten out. And I'm like, holy smokes, man, this thing's burning. I mean, an aircraft burns, you got all those metals and fuel and oils and this thing was, and I even thought about, we carry like a little rucksack that goes right behind our heads in the cargo area. We all carry them. And it's got water, grenades, ammo, things that we could use and need. Well, I thought, well, I'm going to get my rucksack out of there. And when I turned around and looked, well, that cargo area was fully engulfed in fire. And I'm like, I'm not putting my arm in there to get that stupid rucksack out of there. So I come back around, co-pilot's still in there, and I get down on my knees and I scream at him. I said, get out of the helicopter now. So I get back up and, again, my priority is protection of my crew and, where we are at that time. And I kind of walked to the right a little bit and then I look back again and no co-pilot. So I ran back over there. I get down on the ground. I crawl in the cockpit. I didn't say anything to him. And I reach up and I grab his latch on his seatbelt. Now he's upside down. And I just pull that latch and he goes, don't, lands on his head and crumples down in a pile. And I just grab him and I pull him. I pull him on top of me and I push and I just push again. I push again. And now we're clear of the aircraft. And I'm like, I told you to get out. I said, you're about to burn up. But that last time his arm, the fire was just like rolling right there at his arm. And I mean, it was just, it was seconds away before it engulfed that cockpit. And so I get him out. We kind of crawl over to that right side, and there's a bit of a defilade. So, a low spot there in the ground. And I'm like, okay, this will be a good spot to defend if we have to. And so I start checking him, and I keep checking around, making sure nobody's coming up. And I tell him, I say, hey, let me see your teeth, do like that. Okay, he's got his teeth. And I'm like, doggone, I wonder what happened. Because you don't want to tell somebody that, holy cow, man, you look really bad, because it'll send them another level of shock. And we're both in shock and we're both busted up and beat up. So I told him, I said, stick out your tongue. And he had bit through way through his tongue. I was like, oh man. I said, okay. I said, you're going to be okay. I promise. And so we set up. I was looking to the north. I was up on a knee and he was in a prone looking to the east. And I told him, I said, hey, if you see something or hear something, reach over and give me a squeeze or tell me, hey, I got contact 12 o'clock, whatever. Let's put both eyes on it. Both guns were kind of jacked up right now because I didn't want to accidentally shoot a good guy, just come check on us. And then it was, and people ask me, well, how much time you last? I have no idea. I really don't.